You know that friend who always cancels plans? The one who says they're tired again, busy again, maybe next time. At first it feels confusing. You wonder if they're avoiding you, if they secretly don't like the group, if something is wrong. But what if the real explanation is much simpler? What if they're not avoiding people at all? They're protecting their energy. Before we go further, comment where you're watching from and tell me if you know someone like this. Because almost everyone does. The friend who would rather stay home on a Friday night. The coworker who disappears immediately after work. The person who turns down parties but seems completely content reading, watching something quiet, or simply sitting in their own space. Society often labels this behavior in simple ways. Boring, antisocial, lazy. But psychology sees something very different. To understand this behavior, you have to start with something called stimulation. Every human nervous system has a different tolerance for stimulation. Noise, conversation, movement, crowds, unexpected social interactions. For some people, these things feel energizing. For others, they slowly drain mental energy over time. Psychologists often explain this using something called optimal arousal theory. It sounds complicated, but the idea is simple. Every brain has a preferred level of stimulation. Some people feel their best when the environment is active, loud, and socially busy. Others feel their best when things are quiet, predictable, and calm. Neither one is better. They're just different settings on the same system. Extroverts tend to operate best when stimulation is high. The noise of conversation, the unpredictability of social situations, the movement of a busy environment. These things actually boost their mental energy. But for people who prefer solitude, the opposite is often true. Every social interaction takes a small amount of energy, even enjoyable ones. A party might be fun. Dinner with friends might be pleasant. But underneath that enjoyment, the nervous system is still working harder. Processing tone, reading expressions, keeping track of conversation, managing expectations, responding in real time. Over the course of a few hours, that mental effort adds up. And eventually, the brain starts asking for something very simple. Quiet. That's why home becomes such an important place for some people. Not because they dislike others, but because home is where their nervous system resets. When you're home, you control the environment. The lighting, the sound, the pace, the temperature, the level of interaction. And that level of control matters more than people realize. In public spaces, the brain is constantly adjusting. Unexpected noise, new people, social expectations, small talk, unpredictable conversations. All of that requires mental processing. At home, most of that disappears. And when those demands disappear, the brain finally relaxes. For people with highly sensitive nervous systems, this difference is enormous. Researchers often refer to this trait as sensory processing sensitivity. Some people simply process environmental information more deeply. They notice subtle sounds, small emotional shifts in conversations, tiny changes in mood, things most people barely register. While that can create strengths like empathy and creativity, it also means the brain gets overloaded faster. Crowded spaces, long social events, constant conversation. These things can feel exhausting much sooner. Home, in contrast, becomes a recovery space, a place where the nervous system can settle. But the psychology behind staying home goes deeper than just introversion. There's also the factor of control. Outside your home, almost everything is unpredictable. A conversation might go awkward. Plans might change. A restaurant might be loud. Someone might bring up a stressful topic. You might run into someone you didn't want to see. Social environments are full of variables, and human brains generally prefer predictability. Home offers something rare: control over variables. You know what the couch feels like. You know how quiet the room is. You know what you're going to eat. You know what you're going to watch. That sense of predictability lowers cognitive load. Your brain doesn't have to stay alert. It can shift into a relaxed state. For people who spend their day managing stress, responsibilities, or constant decision-making, this kind of control is incredibly comforting. And interestingly, staying home is not necessarily passive. Many people who prefer solitude actually have very active inner lives. Research has shown that people who enjoy time alone often score higher in areas like creativity, reflection, and problem solving. Solitude allows the brain to wander, to connect ideas, to replay experiences, to think without interruption. When you're surrounded by constant social input, your brain focuses on responding. When you're alone, your brain focuses on exploring. That's why many creative insights happen in quiet environments, not in loud social settings, but in moments of stillness. Walking alone, sitting quietly, thinking. Some people describe this as doing nothing, but internally, the mind is often doing a lot. Connecting ideas, processing emotions, exploring thoughts that don't have space during busy social interactions. Another reason some people love staying home is something psychologists call restorative environments. Certain spaces help the brain recover from mental fatigue. Nature is one example. Quiet environments are another. Home can become a personal restorative space, a place where routines form small emotional anchors. Morning coffee in the same chair, a favorite blanket, a familiar show playing in the background. These rituals may look simple from the outside, but psychologically, they create stability, predictable comfort. And stability is something the brain naturally seeks when life feels chaotic. Of course, there's an important distinction here. Not all staying home is the same. For some people, staying home is genuinely fulfilling. It restores energy. It supports creativity. It creates peace. For others, staying home may come from something heavier: social anxiety, depression, fear of judgment, past negative experiences in social environments. In those situations, home can become both a refuge and a barrier, a place that feels safe, but slowly reduces exposure to the outside world. Psychologists often look at one key question to understand the difference. Does staying home leave the person feeling restored or trapped? If solitude feels peaceful and energizing, it's usually healthy. If it feels isolating or heavy, something deeper may be happening. That's why the behavior itself isn't automatically good or bad. The reason behind it matters. But for many people who genuinely enjoy solitude, staying home simply reflects a different way of experiencing life. Modern culture often celebrates constant activity. Being out, being seen, posting experiences, attending events, meeting people. There's an unspoken assumption that more activity means a fuller life. But psychology suggests something else. Different people define fulfillment differently. Some people feel alive in crowds. Others feel alive in quiet moments. Watching a documentary, cooking something simple, reading late into the night, listening to music in a dark room. thinking. These experiences may look small on the outside, but internally, they can be deeply meaningful. Another reason people who love staying home are often misunderstood is that their happiness doesn't always look dramatic. It's quieter, more internal, more reflective. And in a culture that often celebrates visible excitement, quiet satisfaction can be overlooked. But the absence of noise doesn't mean the absence of joy. Sometimes it simply means the nervous system is finally comfortable. And that comfort allows people to notice things others rush past. The way light moves across a room, the way a story unfolds slowly, the feeling of being present without needing to perform. In that sense, people who enjoy staying home are not necessarily withdrawing from life. They may just be experiencing life in a different rhythm, one that values depth over stimulation, stillness over chaos, attention over constant activity. Human personalities exist across a wide spectrum. Some thrive in loud environments. Others thrive in quiet ones. Some gain energy from social momentum. Others gain energy from solitude. And understanding those differences can change the way we interpret behavior. The friend who cancels plans may not be rejecting you. They may simply be choosing the environment where their brain functions best. The coworker who leaves early may not dislike the team. They may simply know when their social battery is empty. The person who enjoys a quiet weekend may not be missing out. They may simply be filling up in a way that works for them. Once you understand the psychology behind this behavior, it becomes easier to see something important. What looks like avoidance on the surface is often just energy management. Human behavior often looks strange until you understand the system underneath it. Some people chase stimulation. Others protect stillness. Both are simply ways the brain tries to stay balanced. And once you see that, the behavior starts making a lot more sense. Now here's something interesting to think about. The next time someone turns down plans to stay home, you might realize they're not escaping life. They're choosing the environment where their mind works best. Because human behavior often feels confusing until you understand the psychology behind it. And once you start noticing this clearly, it begins to show up in patterns of energy, attention, and behavior that most people overlook. And that's where a deeper layer starts to unfold that most people don't fully recognize.